Mr. Right here, and in this film we're going to learn how to deal with repeated percentage changes. These are percentage changes that happen once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and so on. And very often questions on repeated percentage changes deal with compound interest. When you have an amount of money in the bank account and after 1 year it goes up by 8%, say, and then the next year it goes up by 8% again, and 8% again the third year. Or these questions deal with when the value of something depreciates, when it goes down. For instance, if you own a house, the value of the house might go down every year. Houses tend to go up in value, so perhaps that's a bad example. If you own a car, the value of a car tends to go down 1 year, the next year, and the next year. Now, the most important thing with repeated percentage changes is you cannot find the amount of the change and then just add it on lots of times or subtract it lots of times. Let's just check that you're happy with why you can't do this. Let's look at an example, and let's look at if I had £5,000 in a bank account, and let's imagine that the bank account was paying 10% interest every year, and let's imagine that I kept my money in the bank account for 3 years. Well, you might be tempted to find 10% of 5,000, which is obviously 500, and then simply say, well, you're going to get £500 a year, so that's 500 times 3, so we're going to get £1,500 interest in total. So now I'll have the 5,000, which I had to start with, plus another 1,500, gives me 6,500. Now, the reason why this doesn't work is as follows. In the first year, you're going to get 10% interest. So you're going to get £500, which means that at the end of the first year, you'll have 5,000 plus the £500 interest. So at the end of the first year, you'll have 5,500. Now, how much interest will you get in the second year? Well, the answer is that you'll get 10% of this amount. So in the second year, you'd actually get an additional £550 because you get 10% of that higher amount. So you can see that it's not going to work simply working out what you get in the first year and then multiplying that by 3. So what do you have to do instead? Well, let's have a look at this example here, example 1. We've got somebody investing £2,000 in a savings account paying 8% compound interest per annum per year. How much will he have after 3 years? Well, you could take your 2,000, you could find out 8%, which is 160, and then you could add that on, and then you could say, all right, that's the first year. Okay, so after the first year, we'd have 2,160, and then you could find 8% of that and add it on, and then find 8% of the new amount and add it on. You could do it like that, but there's a much more effective way of doing it. So in the first year, we're going to take the £2,000 and we're going to increase it by 8%. So we're going to multiply by 1 point the increase. That's how we increase by a percentage. Multiply it by 1.08. That's the amount of money that George will have at the end of the first year. Now we'll take that amount and increase it by 8% again for the second year. Take that amount and increase it by 8% again for the third year. So what you've actually got here is you've got £2,000 multiplied by 0.18 to the power of 3, because you're multiplying by 1.08 3 times, once after another, after another. So the method that you can use is you can simply work out 2,000 multiplied by 1.08 to the power of 3, which you can put straight into your calculator, and that will give you the answer. In this case, it's 2,519.4 42 pence to the nearest penny. Let's have a look at another example. This time we've bought a car and it's going to depreciate by 12% a year. How much will it be worth in 6 years' time? Well, I don't really fancy working out 12%, taking it off, working out 12% of the new amount, taking it off, and doing that 6 times in the chart. I might as well do this. Start with the 7,000. Now, we're depreciating by 12%, so we're reducing by 12%. So we're going to multiply by 0. What's left? Well, if it reduces by 12%, there's 88% left. So that's the first year done. I could multiply it again, multiply it again, multiply it again, multiply it again, and multiply it again. Or I could simply multiply the original 7,000 by 0.88 to the power of 6, which gives me an answer, in this case, of £3,250.83 to the nearest penny. So that is the method that I suggest you use. You work out the percentage multiplier, and then you raise that to the power, and the power depends upon the number of years. Now again, you need to be careful with single-digit percentages and with halves. If something is increasing by 6%, for example, you need to remember the percentage multiplier is 1.06 and not 1.6. Very often, questions with compound interest especially deal with halves. You might, for instance, be investing in a bank account that pays you 2.5% interest. So in that case, what is your multiplier going to be? It's going to be 1.025. So again, you need to be careful with single-digit percentages and be careful with halves. So when you have a question which involves compound interest or depreciation or a repeated percentage change, you're going to remember to take the original, for instance, £5,000, multiply it by the percentage multiplier to the power of the number of changes, the number of years, the number of months, the number of whatever it is. Now you'll want to practice these, so you can find the corresponding practice film in the practice playlist.